What is up, people of the internet? Welcome back to another episode of the Wave 4 Podcasts. We're back in the studio, and we're your hosts. I'm Marquez.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm David.
So last episode, pretty chaotic. I know. It was insane. We had a pretty crazy travel schedule, and we did want to have a little fun while we were out there, but now we're back, and we do want to get into the weeds on all things WWDC. It was kind of the news of the week, and it was one of the more packed WWDCs ever.
It was lit.
I mean, I haven't seen every WWDC ever, but that was pretty
It was
action-packed. It was busy.
Yeah.
So we're going to go through all the stuff. And there's a lot more coming, and of course, coverage on the other channels, but we should just dive right into it. Hardware stuff, software stuff, headset, new product category, first-gen stuff. Let's just start with the basics.
Yeah.
MacBook Air. MacBook Air got a 15-inch version.
Yeah. Yay!
It's bigger.
We were hoping they would do this eventually. Yeah, the details are it's bigger. It's so you had the M2 MacBook Air. It was 13 inches. Now we have the M2 15-inch MacBook Air. It is a 15.3-inch display of the same quality and brightness. It also means you get a bigger battery to match the battery life of the 13-inch Air. And it also means...
2 more speakers.
Yeah, 2 more speakers. So 2 extra force-canceling woofers. Maybe it's got a little extra bass depth. We'll see. That's it.
Nice.
Same laptop. Oh, there's one more color, because there's 4 colors now.
There used to be
There's
4
always-
colors.
Was it always 4?
Mhm.
Oh, okay, same 4 colors,
But
which
enough
are...
black now.
They don't come in colors.
Black is not one of them.
Come black.
It's not one of
I'm
them.
sorry.
It's space gray, I guess, is what it's called.
Listen
And
to
there's
the trivia episode if you want to get that joke.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then there's silver, midnight, and starlight. It's $12.99.
Mhm.
They have the 13-inch M2 still, of course, for $11.99. Or sorry, $10.99.
Yeah. It dropped.
And they still have the old design 13-inch Air M1 for $9.99.
Do not buy that.
It's interesting. I don't hate recommending it to people who don't need M2. It's just you also get an old design.
Yeah.
The screen on the new one is so much better.
I think the
It
screen's
is.
worth $100.
Yeah, I
That's fair.
think
Like
so
the new-
too.
yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So it exists. It's the thinnest, lightest 15-inch laptop I think I've ever seen. It's 3.3 pounds, and it only has 2 ports.
Yep. 2 USB-C and 1 audio jack.
Yeah, still
Yeah.
a MacBook Air.
Yeah, I do think if they were going to make it that much bigger, they should have added 1 more USB-C port. I would have liked that.
Yeah.
But hey, I mean, yeah, I think that the versatility of the 13-inch is amazing for a lot of people, but having that option to have the 15-inch is
think
pretty
it's-
epic.
Yeah, like I think there's some people who don't need everything in a MacBook Pro, but would still like the bigger
Yeah.
screen. And
That's
I think this is exactly what they're for. Yep.
That's exactly why it
Perfect.
exists.
You'd be
People-
surprised at how many like corporations will issue MacBook Airs now, or like a friend of mine works at this company, and they issued everyone 14-inch MacBook Pros.
Mhm.
But honestly, they probably could have just done 15-inch
yeah.
MacBook Airs, and they would have saved some money.
Yeah. There are an ungodly amount of people that walk into a store and just say, what's the cheapest 15-inch laptop that you have? And Apple would have to go, oh, we have a 16-inch MacBook Pro. And then they go, never mind. And to me, so this is sort of my my analogy in the video that I'm going to eventually talk about this laptop. It feels like it's the Tesla Model Y of their lineup,
That's a
where the
really
13-inch
good
is the
analogy.
Model 3.
That's an
Because-
amazing analogy.
Yeah, when Model 3 came out, it was like, oh, yes, finally, an inexpensive version of the car, and it's great. But guess what most of the population is actually looking for? Something a little bigger, a little higher off the ground. So when they made a little bigger, a little higher off the ground version of it, it became the best-selling car. And the 13-inch MacBook Air is the Model 3. It was like, you have an entry-level laptop. It's the one most people are going to get. But guess what? Most people want a little bit of a bigger screen. 15-inch laptops are the most common form factor. So guess what? They made the 15-inch version, and I predict it will be their best-selling computer.
Just like the Y was the best-selling car.
So there you have it. Then they did Mac Studio and M2 refresh across the board.
Yes.
So we have M1 Pro and M1 Max and M1 Ultra stuff in Mac Studio. Or no, not even
M2.
M1 Pro.
M2.
Now it's M2.
Well, now it's-
Yeah.
Now it's M2 Pro, M2 Max, M2 Ultra. That's the new chip.
Mm-hmm.
The big bad M2 Ultra. They also got HDMI 2.1, which is great to see. And then they also went, wait a second. We didn't finish the Pro lineup. Or the Mac lineup. We have one more Mac to add Apple Silicon to. And the Mac Pro got Apple
happened.
Silicon.
Yeah.
It happened.
It was about the most boring version of the Mac Pro getting Apple Silicon you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
It was basically the exact same Mac Pro cheese grater that we know from the Intel days, but instead of GPUs that you can take out and put back in, and instead of RAM that you can take out and put back in, it's just the M2 Ultra, same one from the Mac Studio, and a bunch of PCI slots.
That's basically it.
And that's it.
That's it. And it's
Which-
so big.
It's gigantic.
Yeah.
And there is no discernible thermal difference between the two. Like there's plenty of space in the Mac Studio, so they'll perform the same. It's just if you need PCI, this is a computer for you.
And there was one of the towers in there with the lid off or whatever you want to call it, so you could see inside. And there's just like there was nothing in the PCIe slots, and then there's just the chip. It looked like when like a bachelor gets their apartment and they just have like a lawn chair and a TV like in the middle of this like the room. There's just absolutely nothing in it.
It was cool to see the M2 Ultra die in there though. That looked pretty
big.
cool.
Yeah.
It's very big. It's bigger than I expected.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about M2 Ultra a little bit in detail because it's actually a way bigger update than you'd probably expect, especially considering M1 Ultra, right, was not a huge lift. You know, it was 2 M1 Maxes that were fused together, and that's obviously huge performance gains. But then when the M2 Max came out, it was so close in performance to the M2 Ultra. And we actually had a nice briefing about the new Max, the new M2 Ultra. And the reason it's such a big difference, especially for us, is that the original M1 Ultra, because it was 2 fused together, it kind of just had twice the performance, but in parallel. It wasn't exporting our videos twice as fast because they didn't have a hardware way for them to do that. They were just like, oh, if you need to like export twice as many tasks, you can do them all at like their linear speed, but in parallel.
They didn't work together as much as they worked at the same time.
At the same time.
So if you had twice as many things to do at the same time, you would see a benefit. But if you wanted to do one single thing twice as fast, you didn't see that as often.
Which seems like the obvious thing, but I guess with super pro workflows, maybe you're doing a bunch of things. They actually told us, they were like, yeah, but like, you know, you could export a 480p version of this and a 720p and a 1080 and a 4K and an 8K at the same time. We're like, okay.
YouTube does that for me.
It's literally.
It's like, I guess it's good to do that because we can upload it for subtitling and stuff.
It's funny, like going out a compressor and making 9 versions of video at once. Like I'm sure somebody does that, but for ours, it's like I usually do a couple back-to-back exports. I do the 4K one that goes to YouTube, and then we do subtitle captions, and I don't need to upload a 4K version of the video to them to do captions, so I just export the smallest possible version, like a 480p version, so that I can upload the 100 megabyte file. So I do 2 exports, and then maybe I do a audio and SFX tracks for when we do our dubbing. So it's like there's a bunch of stuff happening, but I always do them like one after another.
I never even thought about the fact that we could do them in parallel. So we should probably set up a workflow for that.
Well, it takes like 10 seconds after.
I know.
How long does it take to export a 480 already rendered timeline?
But setting up a macro where you can just do everything at once,
that would be fire.
Is cool.
Until you accidentally only upload the 480p version.
I would never.
But for M2 Ultra, the thing that's amazing about it, they changed the hardware a little bit and changed the software a little bit, the firmware. And now it's 1.8x faster than the M2 Max because it can now put all those resources into one task, which is amazing. So I think that we're going to see a huge gain on M2 Ultra over M1 Ultra, which is very exciting. They showed us a lot of pretty crazy demos with it, where they were just like playing back 12 streams of 8K video in real time, which, you know. But you can get up to 192 gigabytes of RAM in the M2 Ultra, which is pretty insane. 30% faster GPU, 40% faster neural engine. Yeah, up to 6 Pro Display XDRs. We're never going to utilize that. That's fine.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
You get like a bunch more I/O also in the M2 Ultra just because you have more space than like the M2 Studio that's going to come out, right?
I think the I/O on the Mac Studio is the same.
I thought it had like
the Mac Pro
on the Studio is the same. The
Mac that's Pro what I'm saying. The Mac Pro though is like
Pro,
where you're getting a bunch of extra I/O over the Studio.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So to be fair,
they took away the SD card slot.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Let's go through all the new Mac Pro stuff. Mac Pro, same exact chassis, but no SD card slot.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know.
What? That was useful. So that's number one.
Pros don't use SD.
They just put it back on.
You just put it back in the laptop. It's right here in the MacBook Pro. But it does gain 6 or 8 on the back. I think it's 8. Yeah, 8 Thunderbolt ports on the back and the top PCI slot.
Is a lot.
And then 2 HDMI 2.1 and 2 USB-A. And then 6 open PCI Gen 4 slots. The bottom one is a compatibility slot. That's great. The Mac Studio has all the same ports and HDMI 2.1 instead of 2.0 as the last Mac Studio.
Yeah.
But obviously, the old Mac Pro, you could stuff 1.5 TB of RAM in there. You can't do that anymore because the RAM is built into M2. So you can do 192 gigs, which is a lot, but it's not what you could do before. So that's interesting. And then no GPUs at all.
Yeah.
Just M2's GPU.
Yeah.
And you could do obviously other cards and things. Like if you want to put in a card with a bunch of CUDA cores to help render things, you can do that, but that won't be your video card. That will just be like a rendering card. You can do audio cards, you can do storage cards, which is what I'm probably going to end up doing.
Yeah.
But that's the difference with Mac
That
Pro.
is what makes this product very strange. Is that the old cheese grater was just like, it's upgradable so that over time you can just keep swapping stuff out and you keep the chassis. And this one is just like a lot of the chassis, everything's built in. It's on the main board. It's fused to the main board. And all you can really do is PCI expansion, which for the people that use PCI expansion for like audio stuff, useful. But it's a very large chassis for one small subtask. And I imagine this is a much smaller audience than even the old Mac Pro was.
I have a theory.
Go for it.
Most of my theories about Apple are based on things that they've already done because they're so lockstep predictable as a company. They do things over and over again. I think they're going to redesign the Mac Pro for the next gen. And here's why. This is the ultimate laziest. We went from Intel to Apple Silicon but didn't change the chassis. What did they do in the first MacBook Air? The same exact thing. They had the Intel MacBook Air, and then they just took the exact same Intel MacBook Air, swapped it out with Apple Silicon, and they were like, haha, performance. But the next gen's going to have a redesign. And sure enough, we got the M2 with the redesign that was built around the chip. Now Mac Pro happens. What happens with the Mac Pro? They went straight from Intel to Apple Silicon, and you go, wow, look at all that performance. But it's not built for this chip. I think the next gen Mac Pro can be smaller thermally. It can have a nicer design, and it doesn't have to, it could be on your desk even. It could have 4 PCI slots instead of 6.
Yeah.
And you can shrink that thing down and make it nice. And I think that's the next Mac Pro.
The hardest thing about that, though, is just the sizing of the cards you're putting in the expansion slots.
It's got to be big enough for the cards.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. Because like ultimately, like you said, you can't replace RAM and all that because it's all on the chip. So we all kind of saw that coming and thought it'd be smaller. But when you think of all the expansion slots, they can only make it so small if you want to put 6 slots there.
Yeah.
So what do you like? Are you imagining a smaller cheese grater?
Yeah.
Maybe not
That would
cheese
actually
grater.
be kind of sick.
It's got to be a smaller case. It's got to be, maybe it's still a cheese grater because airflow and iconic design, whatever.
It's
but
like the
yeah,
die-cast cheese grater
Can we
model.
take bets
like,
now when
shrink it
this
down.
is going to happen? When
oh,
this
when it
refresh?
happens?
I like that we're already on to the next Mac Pro.
know.
You just got what you wanted.
This was the Chet Marquez
Is this what you
upgrade.
want?
I know.
yeah, it kind of was.
Is this what you wanted? Yeah.
No.
When is this going to happen? It's the lowest priority thing.
3
It's
years.
the Tesla Roadster of their
3
lineup.
years?
4 years.
Before a redesign?
I think 2 years.
I think they should have offered 2 Mac Pros this year. If they were going to do this, they should have offered like that mini ITX version where it has 4 PCI expansion slots and it's smaller
And cheaper?
and cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this Mac Pro starts at $7,000.
That's crazy.
It's expensive, but it has respectable baseline specs.
Yeah, you only get M1 Ultra.
Where the
M2
last
Ultra
baseline
in it.
Mac Pro was like kind of a slap in the face where you were getting the base one.
I think absolutely specced out. This thing's like 20 grand, which is significant.
It's 12.
It's
12?
The 20 is if you
Holy
add,
moly.
if you see that screenshot, it's because people love to just add like Final Cut and Logic and all the stupid like add-ons
They
down
added a
the
Pro
list, and
Display
that's like the
XDR.
absolute
Oh.
highest you can get.
Yeah.
is 20.
Okay.
The
That's
maximum
crazy.
you can spend on the computer itself is just over $12,000.
wild.
How would I know that?
I wonder. Oh no.
Yeah.
I didn't think that's
So-
what happened.
So yeah,
Okay.
that's the Mac Pro and the Mac Studio. That's the Mac OS also changed.
Oh right.
We got a new Mac OS.
Yeah.
And I guess that kind of brings us into the software section.
Yeah.
Because that's most of what WWDC is. Typically, we talk software OS updates, and
Yeah.
Apple's got a bunch of OSs.
We don't
so they-
usually get this much hardware, so it was like
Yeah.
we left there and I was like, if we didn't get hardware, sure this would be still interesting, but there would be not nearly that much to talk about.
Mac
Yeah.
Pro is at like minute 15 out of 2 hours.
Yeah,
Like,
they were
they
cruising.
slammed that.
They were
fast.
cruising. When we sat down and they first started going, and I couldn't get the Wi-Fi working, so I was starting to do things on my phone. My phone was like heating up by how fast I was typing. Like I couldn't keep up, and it was
Yeah.
like, by the time we got to Mac Pro, I was like, they finally got to it. That was 15 minutes into a 2-hour
Adam
keynote.
and I were looking at it to like finds the clip of
Yeah.
them reacting, and I'm like, Adam, you have to go earlier. He's at like minute 40. I was like, earlier. He's like 30 earlier, and then he got to
15.
20, and it was still after it.
Oh my
and
gosh.
it was like 12 to 15 minutes in.
That's wild.
They were flying. Like Ellis and I were taking notes, and like at the beginning we're like talking, cracking jokes, and then we just get real quiet because we're just trying to keep up.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Let's talk software.
So macOS Sonoma
Uh-huh.
is what's showing up on every Mac now. You predicted the name?
I didn't actually predict the
Oh,
name.
okay.
We were kind of joking on Twitter. What happened was I think we were joking about like
It
macOS.
was the trivia question.
It was the trivia question where Ellis
Mm.
said like what was the name of Silicon Valley, and then I thought that it was the wine country area.
Is that one of the multiple choice ones?
Yeah.
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 The my prediction was Alcatraz.
I said
It wasn't
Alcatraz.
actually
Yeah.
Alcatraz. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, you were talking about the trivia, but it's more fun to just ignore the facts and lean into the meme.
I
The
agree.
screenshot of you going Sonoma, and that's like the
Exactly.
Yeah.
the caption. That's
It's
like,
fake news, but I'll take it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no context at all. No, it's a pretty small update, but there are some interesting things. Some highlights. Number one, I don't know why, but you can take widgets out of the sidebar now and just throw them out anywhere on your home screen. Does anybody? Do you guys use widgets at all? I don't really even. I have like 2 in my sidebar. Weather, because we have a terrible air quality alert out here, and then screen on time.
But you can use the TickTick widget on your desktop.
Well, okay. So the big widget update is that in iPadOS and macOS, you can interact with widgets inside of the widget without opening the app. Believe it or not, you could do this in any widget on the iPad.
I hear the
ever.
rant
That's
coming. Do we
insane.
want to focus on macOS first before we go straight into
Fine,
it?
okay.
I just know where this is going, and I think we should
Okay.
focus on
Okay. So yeah, you could put your widgets
Sorry.
anywhere on the Mac.
widgets. Are I don't use widgets, but I think my screen's a mess all the time with just like different sized windows, and that to me feels like my clicking through widgets. But some of for people who do use it, I could see them being kind of cool. It is nice how they like deactivate sort of behind when you have another window active, and it like fades nicely into the background. But I don't know,
beautiful.
a lot of people using computers with one screen like that. I just use my window full screen all the time, so I would never use a widget. So
I
yeah,
always
it's a
look
little
at
weird to me.
the demos, and like they did the demo of that, and I was like, you know how I know I'm never going to use this, because the demo is just a small window in the middle of the screen and then a bunch
Yeah.
of widgets around it.
Yeah.
I never use a small window in the middle of my laptop.
I think this is part of their merger of the iOS, iPadOS, macOS thing. They're slowly trying to get everything to look more and more similar. And if you can just like throw widgets, like you see this screenshot, right? This just has widgets all over the
Yeah,
display,
like-
which in my opinion makes it look really messy.
but people think it looks like an iPad.
Do you know what it reminds
Well,
me
it
of?
looks more like an iPad now.
Yeah, that's true.
This reminds me of Windows Vista, when they were trying to say how like Vista was going to
Aeroglass.
be the new sick operating system because it had all these like widgets on the screen that no one ever touched because your window is full screen all the time.
Yeah.
Hey, I was a widget boy in Vista days. I had XP.
A wee widget lad.
I had XP for like months when Vista was out, and I was like, oh my god, I want this Aeroglass so bad. And I had installed a theme on Windows XP that gave me the transparent glass and the widgets, and I was like, hell yeah, I kind of have Windows Vista.
And it's stable.
yeah, and then I actually got Vista, and I was like, oh, this is I
You load it up, you're like, I can see the weather, and you're like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, I didn't need to
Yeah.
see the
That's
I'm
weather.
just
what
gonna
I
put
wanted.
all the widgets on a separate desktop. Just
I think
how you do
That's
on a
actually
phone.
not a bad idea.
That's as someone who has 2 monitors, that did cross my mind.
Yeah.
It's like, what if I just put them all on the corner of one of the monitors?
Just swipe between them.
Or if you're like a
Oh wait,
laptop,
that's what we already have.
Oh no, the one where you because macOS lets you like swipe between virtual desktops.
Yeah.
I think you could have a virtual desktop that's all widgets. So you just use the 3-finger gesture. And
Well,
then
what did we have before? Wasn't it called when you pinched out?
That's a control center. or
That
something?
used to
Or
be
not
a
control
widget
center.
panel.
That's this.
I don't know.
That's
Apple
like-
brands all the gestures. I don't know what they're
That's
called
all the
anymore.
There
apps.
used to be a widget panel where you literally it was like a search box and a bunch of widgets in macOS.
This is like the virtual home screens.
I think they just change where they put widgets every update and just see what catches on.
Yeah.
That's basically.
So Sonoma.
Yeah, Sonoma has widgets.
There's
now.
not a ton of updates in Sonoma. It's probably the smallest OS update out of any of the products that Apple has. You also have enhanced screen sharing, which is fairly cool. It's
I
like
think
when
it's the sickest feature.
yeah, it's like and it works in pretty much any video conferencing application, but it can separate you from the screen that you're sharing and sort of like overlay a small version of you because it's doing semantic segmentation, cutting you out. And it can do a bunch of different things. It can put you in a little circle. It can put you just with your body right in front of it. I think that's really cool because
Dude,
it's good
it's
to have that
amazing.
interaction with the person and also see their screen.
It's like foreground, background, like giving you,
yeah, I
You
really
know
like that. I
the
think
like
it's cool.
cutout on the iPhone of like holding down and bringing a subject out of a photo.
You're basically doing
It's that for video
time.
in real time in whatever app you want. It's
I mean,
pretty useful.
If you think about it, Zoom kind of does or I forget if it's Zoom or something, but they'll blur the background for you, right?
They all do
So
something
pretty much
like that.
what it's doing is just eliminating that behind you. And then, but it looked really good.
It looks
from
really
what
good.
It was, yeah.
They have a bunch of really funny, really dumb things where you can like hold up both hands and
Oh
there's
my
some
goodness.
fireworks. There's a bunch of like effects. Who wants this stuff?
Even
like,
the demos they were doing of it felt like delayed. It was like thumbs up,
And it
hold
was
it
like,
for 4 seconds, and then like
fireworks. Like,
yeah.
I think every video conferencing app has these like really gimmicky, really childlike things that like nobody really likes and cares about.
You know how there's like a button to raise your hand in Google Meet? I just picture you going like this and then like 90 hands come up from behind you. Like, I'm raising my hand.
that would be useful.
I would do that.
That would actually be useful.
Yeah.
We also got Safari got a little bit of an update. There is more privacy features in it, and they also have what is it called? Profiles now,
Yeah.
which is something that Chrome has had for a very long time. So that's cool. I immediately thought it kind of looks like Arc now, like some of the
With the
things they were
profile
adding.
switcher.
The profile switcher kind of looks like Arc,
You can also now create a web app from any app and put the icon on your desktop.
which you could also always do with Chrome.
Yeah. Or in Windows for like 10 years.
Yeah. Before Facebook Messenger, back when I used to use Facebook Messenger, before they had an actual web app, that was what I would do. You could just remove the URL bar and it would just be an app that you could launch. And it was a Chrome window.
Sick.
They have a game mode.
Game
now.
mode, which is huge because everyone uses
Actually
Macs for
massive.
games.
Hey, I'm really pumped that they used like a really hard game to prove. They used Death Stranding, which is a very hard game to run, and that's how they showed it. I thought there was supposed to be a
There is a translator now.
translator.
So did you catch this? They have an API, or they have a thing now where you can basically move, like developers can take their game and translate it to Metal, or use the Metal API and like easily move it over to Mac. And a lot of people, apparently people can just do this without being the developer, but a lot of people were just taking existing games that they own and moving them over and then trying them on Mac. So people were playing like Cyberpunk on their MacBooks and getting pretty good frame rates.
Interesting. That was actually an interesting development.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems pretty big for gaming.
Okay.
Um,
Well, game mode, if anyone's wondering, is basically just like a priority of the game on your CPU, GPU, and it also doubles the sample rate of Bluetooth. So if you're using an external controller, it'll be more responsive.
yeah.
It also
And
with
I like
AirPods
that.
as well, just like less
Yes.
latency between them, which is actually really awesome.
Yeah. And I
That's
think
pretty
they
cool.
assume that your computer's going to be plugged in while you're playing a video game anyway. So if that uses more battery, you probably don't care. And last but not least, probably the most important possible thing. You want to take it away, Marquez?
Oh yeah, I love these things.
Oh, no.
No, I actually unironically really love these. So there's now this, the screensavers from Apple TV that were like these crazy HDR helicopter flyovers of like major cities or super cool things. They are bringing them to Mac OS now, and they shot a bunch of new ones. And I was talking to the guy Phil who shot these because believe it or not, really hard to shoot some of these. And if you look at them for like, if you have an Apple TV that goes to screensaver mode and you watch one of the screensavers for like 5-6 seconds in a row, you're like, oh, this is kind of a cool shot. And then it keeps going for another like minute and you're like, this is a really long shot. And it keeps going for another 2 minutes and you're like, how did they make this?
Yeah.
And the answer is 8K slow-mo from some incredible like aerial camera setup and really impressive stuff.
It's also really cool that when you then log in after the screensaver is on, it like nestles into your background and then
So
becomes
sick.
like a free, like that's just such a nice touch of just like, hey, we have a 8K video like screensaver, and then just like turns into your desktop though. I know it seems so little, but that's the kind of stuff that
No, for
Apple
sure.
does that makes it feel
I
like
have to find the
more
looping
so.
point. I will not.
It's
sleep
really
until
hard.
I find the loop.
It's really hard. They're good.
It's forever.
Samsung also used to do this. I don't know if you remember this on like the Galaxy S9. they would have like these wallpapers these wallpapers when you unlocked your phone. Before you unlocked it, when you turned it on, it had like a wallpaper, and then you would unlock it and it would sort of like nestle into the background. Yeah, but they got rid of those, but now they're bringing them to the desktop here. That's very cool. We should take a break.
Yeah, we got a lot more to talk about. There's a bunch more software. There's iPhone stuff, AirPlay stuff, AirPods stuff, iPad stuff, widget rant, and maybe even a Vision Pro thing or two.
Maybe.
So we're going
Maybe
to
we'll
talk
about it if we get to it.
Yeah, we'll maybe get to it this time. So
also, all trivia this week is in our collab episode, so we've got way too much to talk about to do trivia today. So sorry for you trivia lovers.
Be right back. All right, welcome back. Let's get into the new iPhone software, iOS 17. See what I did there? Yeah, see, now you clicked. No, okay, so there's a lot of good stuff in iOS 17.
Already watching.
It's funny because there's so much like other stuff that it kind of went under the radar, but if you just look at this list, there's a bunch of really smart stuff in here.
Yeah.
Two main things that I noticed as like an overarching theme to pay attention to for this. One, Apple doesn't love saying the same words on stage as other companies. And specifically, if you went back to Google I.O. and you saw what they said on stage, it was mostly AI, 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 AI. And they would say AI any chance they got about any feature that used any sort of machine learning or anything.
Pump the stock.
I don't even know if Apple said AI once on stage. Did they? Maybe
said
once or twice?
Transformers twice.
They said Transformers. They said ML, machine learning.
But I don't think they said AI once. And I
They
don't think they
avoided-
ever will.
They avoided saying AI at all. But there are still features that would qualify as AI in iOS in the software we'll talk about. So that's one. And the other is ecosystem takes the lead here. They did a lot of ecosystem tie-in features.
Yeah.
And they're useful features, but they're like really useful if you have friends with iPhones or if you have more than one Apple device.
Absolutely.
Those are the two like themes out of everything I noticed. So, okay, first let's get into the phone app is better. New contact cards.
phone
Actually, they're
part of
called
the phone.
posters. The phone app, just like making calls.
Yeah.
There are live transcribed voicemails now, which is literally if you miss a call or send someone to voicemail, just like on the Pixel when you screen a call, you'll get the voicemail transcription happening live on your screen, and you can choose to pick it up in the middle.
That's really interesting, I just want to say, because I thought that carriers, like, as they're leaving a voicemail, you can read the transcription and decide to pick it up while they're leaving a voicemail, which I didn't know was possible. I thought that carriers like decided on whether you could do that or not.
It is funny. Like, I think Nilay mentioned this when we joined their podcast on how it's an old answering machine. Like, that's what you used to do on an answering machine at your house. Be like,
Yeah.
I don't feel like answering this. And be like, oh, that was my mom. And she's actually calling about something important. Just like pick them up in the middle of their leaving the voicemail. And
That's actually a great point.
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
it's literally just that.
Some people
but it's a
listening to
really
this
good
have
idea.
never had an answering machine.
Well,
I
it's
do
true.
vaguely remember those.
It didn't live transcribe. You just heard it.
Yeah.
And then it recorded it and you played it later. But anyways, I do think that's really cool because a lot of people are going to say like, oh, Androids have had live transcription voicemails for a while, but like real time being able to interrupt it, I think is really cool.
So you can on
actually.
the Pixel, it's just not called a voicemail.
Yeah,
you
but
can-
can you pick up while they're leaving a voicemail?
and
Yes.
it's real time transcribing it.
Yes.
Why am
So
I missing that?
on call screen on the Pixel, when you hit screen call, it does give a little like this person is using a
Yeah,
Google
okay.
whatever, and then they can start talking, and I get a transcription as they're talking
I don't
of what they're
consider that
saying,
the
and I
same
can pick
thing.
up.
I think that's different. I
It's
feel like there's a difference between like you just made it to voicemail and like I got sent a robot to answer this call and now I'm.
I mean, if you take away the intro with Google talking, it's the same thing.
But do you think that Google is like shoving a robot in between the call and the actual voicemail part, and
So-
then it's just doing its own?
Yes.
function
So what
there?
Google does is it introduces itself as a robot, and
Yeah.
then you start talking, and there's a couple of buttons you can press on the screen to ask for more. So if you want to go like, "Who is this?" or
Yeah.
"Why are you calling?" you hit the button, and then the robot asks them, and then you continue to get a transcription of what they say. And if you want to pick up at any time, you hit the green button and pick up. This one is just like, they're not picking up your call. Feel free to start talking now. It's a voicemail, and then you
I would
can pick
argue
up
that's
in the middle.
better. I feel like if I'm the one leaving the voicemail, or I think people leaving me a voicemail will feel much more like free flowing and personal if they're just leaving a voicemail and I pick
Yeah.
up versus like
Yeah, no one wants to talk to a robot.
yeah, the
Yeah,
robot
what's the
just
point of the
changes
robot?
the vibe completely.
It's just-
What is even the point?
It's kind of just like Google just added a bunch of features to screen calls. And it's like if I get like a spam thing and a spammer starts talking, I just hit the red button and it's gone.
Yeah, but the thing is,
But
if
if
you
it's-
were able to screen calls already,
Mhm.
like if Apple can just be like, okay, we're interrupting the voicemail feature and we're allowing you to pick up during that call, why does Google even have to do the thing where it's like, I'm a robot, please talk?
I always
I
felt
think it's
like
to introduce the rest of the prompts later.
I also always felt like that made it feel like a personal assistant kind of thing. It almost feels way more businessy than
Yeah.
like personal, which is like cool for businesses. Like if I'm,
Yeah.
you know, really busy during my workday and I'm screening voice calls, it's cool. It feels like I have a personal assistant. I can just do that while I'm still working. But when it's like
point.
my mom calling me, like I don't want to send her a robot to be like,
Yeah.
I think
Hey,
Google's
Andrew's not
also
here.
like overly cautious with these kind of things, where anytime they're doing anything with a robot, they're like, let's make sure that people know it's a robot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
this feels like a simpler version, a simpler, more like personal,
easier.
yeah,
Yeah.
everyday kind of thing.
Same thing with FaceTime.
Yes.
You can leave a FaceTime video voicemail.
I love this.
I think
Which
that's
is
cool.
like if you FaceTime someone and they miss it, you've already got your camera open and you were going to do a video call in some way, you just leave a video message.
Yeah. I think the point of FaceTiming someone usually is, especially if you're FaceTiming them when they don't know you're about to FaceTime them, is that you want to demonstrate something. So
Mhm.
being able to have a video call, demonstrate something, and it's just like a voicemail.
Yeah.
I think it's a really cool feature.
That is
Unless
really
you're
cool.
calling from a Vision Pro headset. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Nice tease.
That is
Yeah.
a cool thing. Like
Tease.
I want to FaceTime someone because my kid just took their first steps or something, and then you can be like, look what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Like you missed this, but look, you can still see it.
Yeah,
I think
I
that's
love
really
that.
cool. Yeah.
I love that. They also have personalized contact posters, which is again a very ecosystem.
This
Your
is
friends have an
so-
iPhone thing.
This is so ecosystem.
yeah.
Yeah.
They
So-
changed the way that
Sick,
the
though.
yeah.
It's cool.
They changed the way contacts look. It's way prettier now.
Mhm.
And it basically like does the cutout of your body, and then you can use your own photos.
It's the
and
iOS
everything.
16 lock screen for a poster. Card.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Which is awesome. The iOS 16 lock screen was sick.
And now
Um,
you can airdrop it to someone by putting your phone right next
Yeah.
to theirs.
okay.
Just your iPhones, though.
So this is probably one of the coolest features in iOS 17. If your friends have iPhones,
Mhm.
they added a bunch of functions to tapping your phones together, which I think is a very futuristic, very like we always assumed that you could just kind of like bing,
Mhm.
and that's how it works. So this one's called Name Drop, which I
Such
think
a
is a
great
great name.
They name everything, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just bring your iPhones together, and all of a sudden, I don't know if the animation is actually the way it looked on in the video, but it's like this rippling thing where all of a sudden your contact posters just like ripple
Mm.
into each other's phones. I think that's really cool.
I think the neat touch is you get to choose exactly which contact information you share
Oh, yeah.
with each person. So if
Mhm.
I'm seeing you and I'm like, oh, do you have my phone number? No. And I do that, I can go, yeah, phone number, just share the phone number. And we beam phones and then you get my phone number. Or if I'm at a conference and I'm like, work email, I'll share just the work email when we beam phones.
Yeah.
Oh, harassment, fake number. I'll give
Yeah.
you a fake number and beam,
I
oh, yeah,
love
here's my
this.
number. And it's fake and you just walk away.
You can make a bunch of different contact posters, and you
Yeah.
can just make one that has fake information. So if you don't actually want that person to contact you, you just give
Yep.
them fake
Yeah.
information.
And you're like, I beamed you. You got it. All right, see you later.
See
Bye.
ya, bye. Yeah.
Genius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's very ecosystem. That's oh, you have an Android? Sorry, I guess
Yeah.
I'll give you my phone
It's like
number.
David pops
Here's a
up like
business
popping
card.
out of the screen on his
Yeah.
iPhone, and then I call and it's just like a green AM on the screen.
I have like
Ignoring that one.
a hole punch in a card. That'll if you just dial that number, that'll be it. No, yeah, AirDrop for names.
Yeah.
Name drop.
Other stuff.
smart.
There are actually, speaking of AirDrop, there are a lot of AirDrop updates that I think are cool, because I never thought of AirDrop as something that needed to be updated besides stability.
Yeah.
But now, if you're airdropping something to someone, but you really have to go, when you get out of range, it'll continue airdropping over the internet,
Super useful.
which is interesting. They showed using Apple Photos, like airdropping photos, and I do wonder if for that feature to work, you have to already have what you're airdropping them like in the cloud,
Oh,
because then
okay.
it just kind of like handshake shares it over your accounts and
Mhm.
continues to download
Mhm.
it. I'm not sure if that's the case. We're gonna have to test that.
yeah.
Yeah, when we looked at the images and stuff, it had the little like Apple Photos logo. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We were trying to figure this out.
So not over mobile data. It's because it's already in the cloud on the internet.
Will it be
and
over
it's prob-
mobile data?
It will be cellular. But
Well, at that
you
point,
wouldn't be
'cause-
cellular to their other phone. It would be like cellular to pull it from some cloud source
Yeah.
instead of straight from their
Oh,
phone.
I was assuming it's like sending something to the cloud source, and then the cloud source is sending it back.
I think it's
to-
like you're sending it locally over the Wi-Fi direct handshake that you have with AirDrop.
Mhm.
But then if you get out of range, because that file is theoretically also in the
Yeah,
cloud,
already.
it can finish downloading
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
It already knows what bytes it's downloaded,
Mhm.
so it downloads the rest. I don't know if that's how it works definitively, but that's how I would understand it. to work.
Disclaimer: that's an assumption.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We gonna test it.
We're gonna test that.
Yeah.
Also, AirDrop now works with Apple Watch.
I'm gonna
or
beam you so many videos on the Apple Watch.
Yeah, you can. Well, you can do the name drop thing with Apple Watch too, which is
Oh,
very
true,
cool.
true,
So you
true.
can
Yeah, yeah.
you can bring your like watch to someone's phone and it'll beam.
Can you
their
go watch to
information.
watch?
I don't know.
That would be kind of sick.
Someone's
And
gonna do it. Yeah, someone's gonna do it. You now know who I am. Cool.
Yeah. You can also start share plays now by bringing your devices together, just like name drop. Very
Yep.
cool.
Start shared activities.
Yeah, and then messages.
Messages has a ton of
Lots of
things in
updates to
there.
messages.
Yeah,
Do you
which
wanna
I
go
don't
with that
use messages, so I'm just kind of watching the sticker thing. I think was probably the like biggest thing they showed.
one? I
Not
think the
biggest.
search features.
Well, the search feature
Yeah.
is really cool. So search feature with filters, right?
Yes.
And then so
Mm-hmm.
you can basically search one thing, and then after you've searched that, then you can also keep searching further and further.
There's
into
that.
it.
There's also the benefit that before you would have to search messages wide for a word. You couldn't search
Mm-hmm.
within somebody's message, which
Right.
was stupid, right? Like if I wanted to search for a very specific thing that I talked to Adam about, I would just have to search in messages, and everybody else that said that word would also pop up.
Yeah. So you have to search their name.
Wait,
and
really?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There's no individual search thread like there
Sometimes
has
I'm
been.
just really surprised.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Android.
it's not-
yeah,
Android
It's one of
has
those
been
things where like there's a
really
lot
bad.
of things they add which you're like you couldn't do that before. But yeah,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is the iMessage experience, and I always like breeze through these, and every time I say them, there's a bunch of people going, "Finally!" and you're like, "Oh yeah, people use iMessage a lot."
Yeah.
So search filters is one.
Yeah.
Transcribed inline audio messages is another. So
I love
if I
this.
sent someone an audio message, they would just have a little play button and it would be a waveform that they played and it would disappear. And if you don't have time for that waveform, you can see the transcription now.
Yeah.
This is on Slack for like videos, and
It's
I
so
think it's
funny.
the best thing ever. Like,
Yeah.
so having that in there is actually really cool. I
Google
think.
Messages has it. Telegram has it. I think pretty much every single messaging app has been adding it in the last like year and a half.
Something about live captions recently has just made me very happy.
Me too.
I think it's really awesome.
And I used to complain about people sending me voice notes all the time because it's like, bro, I'm on the subway. I have to put my headphones on just to listen to
Yeah.
your voice note and then take them off, you
Mhm.
know. So that's really nice to see. The sticker experience you were talking about?
Yeah, it's like rather than reactions, you can just straight up put stickers onto messages now. And my main question there is like, it kind of looked like they could put them wherever, but they always put them on the right side of the screen. But like, if you're a bad faith sticker actor, like, are you gonna just start like putting stickers all over your
Everywhere.
messages so you can't read things?
Oh my
anymore?
gosh.
Like,
I probably.
And then your
Prob-
Android friend just gets like, Andrew moved sticker to
I-
300, 458. Like, what is happening?
And the cool yeah.
Right? I can't. Maybe did they only do this because RCS made reactions a little nicer for?
Honestly,
and
it
they want to
feels like
screw
it.
over and
I-
they want
it
to make
feels
our
like it.
lives miserable.
I
again.
think that there is probably going to be like no way for an SMS message to interpolate this.
we need to test this.
Yeah.
That's a really funny point.
This was 100% like Apple watching the Google presentation being like, oh, you want us to support RCS? We'll show you. And then Hiroshi was watching this presentation like, come on, RCS. And they were like, you can put stickers anywhere. And
Enjoy
they're
hell,
like,
Android.
how are we going to fix this? There's no way you have an Android person in the group chat if you're trying to do sticker chaos.
I have a feeling that this is just not going to work at all because
Mhm.
for
previous
Android, right?
Yeah,
Well,
if you
if
add
you
an
have
Android
an
person to the
Yeah,
group
okay,
chat,
yeah.
this feature will stop working.
correct. And
So
previously, if you had a single Android user in the group chat, you couldn't use any iMessage features except for the like reactions and
Yeah.
stuff, and then it would do that weird interpolation stuff. One of the good updates, well, it's actually you can interpret this in various ways. You could say it's a good update or a worse update. But now, if you have an Android user in the group chat, you can still use a lot of iMessage functions.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming that they're doing some weird, like, in-between hacky thing because it's still...
same way Google did, I guess.
Well, that was with like, stickers... not stickers,
They would,
reactions.
they would catch an SMS
specifically.
from a reaction and turn it into a reaction inline in Google's app.
Yeah, But like you're still able to do iMessage features with other iPhone users in the group chat, even if there's an Android user, where previously you couldn't besides reactions. So they're adding specific ones. It's not like every iMessage feature. I think this helps in a lot of ways because it makes it so having one Android user in the group chat will not make everyone bully the Android user to get out of the group chat, which you can't even do, by the way, because it's an SMS chat and you can't leave and enter. You have to start a new one. It's a whole mess. I think that's good, but we'll see how that plays
the
out
way
in
Apple
real life.
likes it.
One other thing, I just realized we missed it, but I did
the
think was kind of
stickers?
cool. No, no stickers. Was there anything else on stickers?
Well, you can make animated
ones
stickers.
were kind of
because you can do the tap and hold thing, where you like cut out a person from a photo, and you can use that as a sticker system wide on any app. You can also do it with videos now. So
I
you
think
can
it was
cut out
live photos.
Oh,
they
live
said.
photos.
Yeah. So I think it would pick out
Okay.
live photos it felt could do it correctly or
Yeah.
would look good, and then in the live photos it would do exactly that.
And you can apparently use those stickers in like a lot of apps.
Really?
Which is very cool. Yeah,
That's
it
kinda
just
nice.
adds to your like emoji section
auto
as your own
gifting,
stickers,
yeah.
which is I
Nice.
think really cool. Anyway, what were you gonna say?
The check-in feature I thought was actually kind of cool. Just like, you know, you tell a loved one like, oh, about like yesterday told Claire, oh, I'm getting on the plane now, and she'll be like, oh, let me know when you land, or like if you're saying I'm gonna drive back an hour, let me know when you get there. It can tell you said that in the messages, and then a little thing will pop up that says like you made it there and tell them you're safe, or just like if you start going off track and don't quite make it there, it sends an alert to the person you're talking about. I'm worried about, well, I don't use this, but if I had this, I would be worried then Claire knows I spent an extra 30 minutes going to Taco Bell on my way home or whatever, and like gonna get narked out on that. But
Turning
like,
this one off.
otherwise, I think it's actually kind of a cool thing, especially I'm sure for parents that have kids
I think
with
it's
phones.
a great idea for women too. Like
For sure.
my
It's a
old roommate,
huge safety feature
Yeah,
that I think is
when she used to go on like first dates, she would share her her location with me for the night.
Yep.
And it's like this is
I think it's
basically.
I think it's a really good low-key safety feature
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
It's one of the things where Apple looks at the way people use the phone and they were like, we can make that better.
Yep.
And they just did it.
Yeah, very cool. Autocorrect, transformer-based autocorrect. Thank God, you can now. It'll basically learn how you text. So if multiple times you say like a word that is like slang or
This
something,
is the worst part of the iPhone.
Yeah,
Hot take.
The
The keyboard
autocorrect?
is the worst
Oh.
part of the iPhone.
by far.
Absolutely.
By
Like
far.
every time I type a word and I'm like, oh, that's not the word. Delete it. Type it again. It fixes it. I delete it. You should know that when I deleted it twice, I didn't want to say it.
Yeah.
And then I type it again and it just keeps going.
It's
and I'm
so
like, this is the
frustrating.
worst keyboard ever.
Ducking sucks.
It's
Yeah.
I did like
Yes.
they made
Yeah.
that reference. I like that they
They
made
did
that
make that
reference.
reference.
Yeah.
because
This
that's
is
the most
cool.
classic one. Like you type it, it fixes it. You delete it. You type it again, it fixes it again. You're like, in what world would I ever say ducking? I've never said that word
Yeah.
before. So now, number one, it will learn from words that you actually use,
Thank God.
and it will actually autocorrect and help you pick your next word based on the way you usually say strings of words.
There's inline typing predictions, kind of like you have in like Google Docs, where if you're typing something, it'll predict the next word, and you can just hit space and it fills it in.
Finally.
There's sentence level autocorrection, which is really useful, and that's something that you need transformers for. 'Cause
These
it
are
can
all
look
things
back.
Google Keyboard's been doing for a while.
Yes, indeed.
So-
We should make a short of this. Have you ever seen the people who they sing songs based on like the Google Keyboard next prediction? So
Autocorrect.
they just keep
Oh,
pressing.
yeah.
No, they just keep pressing.
Yeah,
the
next
next
word,
word, and
next
then they have
word.
to sing the
But
song.
then
It
Autofill.
types-
But then it usually just
It
gets
just
in a
repeats
loop.
eventually.
It eventually
But
gets in a
We should
loop.
do Apple song versus Apple keyboard song
Ooh,
versus
interesting.
Google keyboard song.
Yeah, after you use it for a month and it really knows you very well, just see what it says.
Yeah.
See what it thinks you would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the autocorrect and the updates to the keyboard, really, really useful. I'm very excited about that. So anyone can get, in case you guys didn't know, anyone can get the developer beta now. It used to be that you had to like pay $99, sign up specifically as a developer. I'm not actually sure if I checked a checkbox that said I understand and I agree and I'm a developer now.
Yeah.
I never
You
read the
signed
terms
up
and
for it.
conditions.
I just got the credit card charge for $99 to renew my developer account, but
yeah,
I don't need it to have. I don't need to pay the $100 to have the iOS beta. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you want to try it, it's super not stable. I actually don't recommend it
I
yet.
would not
I don't
do it.
recommend
It's
it
a
either.
developer beta for a reason. Maybe the public
Yeah.
betas, maybe hop on those, but that's where we're at.
Can I talk about standby mode really quick?
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Okay, and last thing in iOS, which is I don't know why I'm like excited about these things and I don't even use an iPhone, but the or it's not even called standby mode. I think it's just called standby.
Oh yeah, standby.
Right? It's called
So
standby.
I think this is.
I thought it was
pretty
really
sick.
cool. Pretty much, and the reason I think this is cool is just because of compatibility with MagSafe on all these things. Where just like you have a MagSafe stand, or I think does it have to be on a MagSafe stand, or it can be kind of whenever?
I think
right?
it does have to be on a MagSafe stand because there's a microprocessor handshake.
I think
between
it's
the
better with a
stand.
MagSafe
yeah,
stand.
I think that's what
but they
it'll
say
automatically do it on a
It'll
MagSafe
pushes it
stand.
into
Yeah.
standby mode.
But I think on stage they said as long as your phone is charging and horizontal, which would sort of require a magnet to do that. But yeah, it's
Sort of. I actually
Not
do have
always.
I have a horizontal wireless charger at home. It just has a little lip on the bottom.
So I think
Oh.
yeah, the Cybertruck one it would be. It would
Oh
work.
yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, the MagSafe stands are cool because you can put them kind of wherever. And essentially what it is a mode that just allows like a bunch of different widgets or just like your alarm clock and stuff like that.
Smart
and it's
home.
it's just like it's basically a smart home display.
Yeah.
But I think the coolest thing about it is depending on where in your house you are and you put it on those MagSafes, it'll like change whatever like you
Contextually.
want those widgets to
Mhm.
be there. So like at your bed, it'll be an alarm clock. If you do it in the kitchen, maybe it's a timer widget or
Yeah.
a to do like a grocery list widget or
It's pretty sick.
maybe sports scores in your like living room. I don't know. It looked really nice. And even when you turn the lights off, like in your bedroom, it'll like change the colors
Oh,
of
yeah.
everything to like
The
glow
red.
down. And
It's
a
like the
red.
Apple Watch Ultra like diving mode red,
Yeah.
where it's like it's super low light, doesn't
not
affect your eyes as
blaring in
much.
your face,
Yeah,
It feels
while
like the
you're trying to
HomePod team
sleep.
was like, "Can we make one with a screen?" Apple's like, "No," and they're like, "But we made all this cool software
have an
and all
iPhone."
these tricks." And they were like, "Do we have any other screens we can use?" And we are like,
your iPhone.
"There's a lot of people with iPhones, so we built this for the iPhone."
I want them to add MagSafe to the iPad Mini, and then also allow you to do this like in your kitchen because that's
yeah.
basically a home display.
Someone's gonna build a stand to hold the iPad Mini sideways and charge it, and then Apple will add that feature.
The problem it needs. I feel like it needs the official MagSafe. Yeah, to do that though. So then it does that like handshake and then.
That'd be
but
nice.
yeah, just like at home Wi-Fi iPad Mini that
Yeah.
can do that on all those stands. Would be-
Epic.
You can also
so
say, "Hey, Siri,"
So
You don't have to
Right.
say hey anymore.
but you don't have to say "Hey" anymore.
Oh,
So you can
yeah.
just yell her name.
You
from
can also
across the room.
interrupt her in the middle of her speaking now.
and like a
Oh,
new
really?
command,
You
or
can
just say stop.
you can just say stop like while she's talking.
Stop.
I'm saying it
Nice.
for Ready? Hey Siri.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
I
whoa! We gotta
have
bleep
to.
that out, man.
No,
This is
don't
a
bleep it.
family.
can't
this
use
is a
profanity
home-friendly
on this
show.
There was
podcast.
that groan happened at the event when Craig just yelled
did.
it out loud. Everyone was like, "Oh,
No, my
like, I think
pocket."
Everyone was ready for their notes to get all messed up or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, he did it like
Google
4
does it at their
times.
presentations too. They'd say it like 3 or 4 times on stage.
I wonder if they
If
have
you're
some
watching
sort
it-
of like localized.
I was
way
gonna
of,
say it's like a
turning it
geo
off.
gate
No,
to
it
turn off
triggered-
Siri.
It triggered a
Did
lot
it
of
trigger? Okay.
things.
It did.
It
Okay,
did,
that's
yeah.
funny. Yeah, I think the standby mode's really cool. There's like a bunch of rumors that they're going to have a home. What is it? What is their
Smart
speaker
display,
called? What
a
is
HomePod.
Yeah, a HomePod with a display at some point.
It would be nice.
Um,
How about a HomePod with a little cutout where you magnetize your iPhone,
that could work.
like the Pixel tablet has a stand.
Yes.
You just pop your
Oh
iPhone
yeah.
into
or
the
your
HomePod.
iPad.
and then your music connects to the HomePod. This is a free product idea. I just realized. Whoops. But then you
They're probably
magnetize it
already
in,
working on it.
and then it's got the smart display with like the smart home controls and everything. But it's also a better speaker and a
Hear me
long
out.
form mic.
They call it iHome, and they have the little 32 pin. You know,
The little dock.
I think that's a great idea.
MagSafe is the new 30 pin.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. Also, randomly, there's a journal app now, but it's not out
Yay.
yet.
Oh.
Yeah, it'll
Also
probably come.
only on iOS,
Yeah, it's not an iPad yet,
not on iPad.
which seems weird
Yeah.
because if you're journaling, a lot of people would want to use the pencil. You know?
One more thing the phone does that's not on the tablet.
Yeah, they kind of always do that, and then they wait like 4 years, and they're like, "Haha, we brought this to."
We know you've been waiting
The
for this.
iPad
Except the
now.
calculator. We're never doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, we did get iPadOS 17.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite feature, specifically, is that widgets are now interactable, meaning that if you have, let's say you have a to-do list app with a checkbox, you can check the box without opening the app. I know this is mind-blowing information. I know this is something that a lot of Android users thought you could always do
I
on the giant
cannot believe
iPad.
that was not
You
something
can
could
never do it.
That's
I've had the.
How is that a widget?
I don't know. It's just a shortcut to open the app. It's got glanceable information, which is cool. So if you have like a weather app, you can't scroll, but at least you can look at the weather.
So stupid.
But like, there's so many instances where I want to interact with it, and you can't. It just opens the app.
50% of the engagement in this video, this episode is gonna be like, I've had this on Android for 10 years.
There's a lot of things we've had. So my number one question, which I don't think we've seen an answer to yet, is, but wait, can you scroll? And I don't think you can scroll. There were no examples on stage of scrolling, which sounds silly, but like imagine a 4-day weather forecast and you scroll over to the next 4 days. Imagine a to-do list app with more than 5 items and you need to scroll down to find the thing you just did. Imagine a calendar widget with more than 5 days and you want to scroll to the next 5 days. Imagine a contacts list where you want to like contact the 6th person, but you only have the first 5 showing, so you scroll to the next 5. Imagine
Wait, aren't there like photo widgets also? Like, can you not scroll
imagine all the
that?
people living for today?
there's a lot of versions of wanting to scroll in a widget. So hey, Apple, as long as I'm on the free suggestions bandwagon, scrolling widgets.
Remember when I cut Marquez off about widgets before? This is why.
This is just like
no, you
brewing.
go now. You're in.
It was
we're in
brewing.
the
It's
zone
your time,
now.
dude.
Yeah.
it's
your
cool
time.
that I can check the
Pop
box.
off.
Apple, I appreciate that. And you can also add those widgets to the side of your lock screen, so you can sort of redesign your lock screen now with some widgets over to the side. Cool. Check those boxes in the widgets. Nice. Just let me scroll.
Go off, King.
Yeah, I want to scroll.
Get 'em.
You mentioned the weather app really quickly. This is very dumb and very stupid. I just want to note that now on the weather app, they didn't announce this on stage, but it's just an update. You can now look at yesterday's weather, which you couldn't do before. Anyway, we can move on.
Nice.
Sick.
iPadOS, other iPad. Yeah, talk about PDFs, Andrew.
PDFs, you can do them. They're
Cool.
there.
Next.
No, yeah, I don't know. There's like
That's-
autofill stuff and like replacing your signature, and wasn't it also? I do think the one cool thing was you could real time chat with someone else working on the same PDF and add notes that wouldn't.
It's
add
in the
to it.
Notes app.
It's in
So
the Notes app,
you can
okay.
bring PDFs into the Notes app,
Yeah.
and it has a bunch of different features that PDFs can do now. Like if you can scan a PDF with your phone,
Scan
bring
a
it-
document and turns
scan a
into a
document,
PDF.
turns it into a PDF.
Mhm.
It automatically knows where the like fields are that you want to write on, and it makes those typable fields
and can autofill them.
and can autofill them.
Mhm.
And then you can like draw on top of it,
Mhm.
and then if you're sharing your note with another person, they can like see those changes in real time and also draw on top of it.
Yeah, and I think you can even like you can add something to it like a photo and then still draw on top of that. And
Yeah.
I know it's just a bunch of layers and all these things sound kind of dumb, but like PDFs are kind of a pain in the neck sometimes. So like
Yeah,
I
it's-
do actually think it's useful. It's just not very
It's like one of the
sexy.
oldest file formats.
I know. But that everyone requires all the
all
time.
the time.
Mhm.
And maybe PR people will stop sending me docx files
when they
now.
require
for
a
the love
PDF
of God.
version of it.
They always require signatures, and
For
they
the
always
love
send
of
me
God,
docx,
please.
and then I have to convert them to PDF,
Every
sign
time.
it, and then send it back.
Yeah, this is such an in the weeds thing, but if
Yeah.
you're a PR manager sending out docx's for
Stop.
signatures, just take the extra minute,
Export.
make it a PDF, and then send it to us. And
Yeah.
We'll sign it.
I think-
Please.
That's an evergreen PR statement. It's like, PR guys, just take an extra minute.
Just take a second.
We'll all appreciate it
take a
way
second.
more.
Think
yeah.
about
I know
what we're
nobody
doing.
watching this understands what we're talking about right now, but we
Yeah.
have to sign a lot of NDAs and documents, and it's
Yeah.
always a docx, and nobody wants to print it out. Anyway,
Uh-huh.
I want to talk about AirPods. Adaptive audio is a new mode.
Very cool.
And I thought this was interesting. So there's transparency mode, which is now adaptive transparency. It's pretty cool. It's mostly transparent unless a loud sound comes through, then it protects your hearing. Then there's noise cancellation, which is just reduce everything and listen to your music. But now the new default is called adaptive audio. And I had to get some clarification on this, but it's basically a constantly adapting level of noise cancellation based on your environment.
which is cool.
And it will be transparent when it detects you start talking.
Yeah.
Because you're now in conversation
cool.
mode. So if you are walking down the street and a car passes by, it'll turn that up so you don't hear the car passing.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's a siren and you do need to hear it. I don't know. I don't know exactly how this works. I need to test it, but it seems like it's supposed to be smart about this stuff.
You're ordering a coffee and you don't
start
want to have to
talking.
turn it to transparency mode. I think
Yeah.
they just want to make it so you have to touch the stems as little as possible.
Yeah.
It just automatically
That
does
and
so.
also just like safetyness. So you can still walk down the street while being able to like really hear your music, but like if that siren happens or if that like really important safety issue is like
Yeah.
making noise that can alert you. Like
This seems like basically it's for the wear AirPods everywhere people.
yeah, are we at that maybe you guys know because you're maybe wearing AirPods more. Are we at that stage of society where that happens? Where we like I don't know, even transparency mode on like my Link Buds. If someone talks to me, I just take both of them out because I feel rude.
There is a generation of people.
We're getting there, right?
No, there's
I
a
don't feel like
generation
it.
of people who just wears them
Don't take
all
them
the
out.
time.
They wear pods for
Yeah.
sure.
Actually, Miles wore them nonstop for like the first couple of weeks.
That's because he's 22.
Yeah, I'm a boom. I'm old, man.
Oh my God, I'm old.
You take them out of your ears when you talk to me, Sonny.
No, that's a
Yeah.
good. That's a great point. Actually, I always take my earbuds out when someone stops me on the street. But I would bet you that there are a lot
Yeah, I
of
think
younger
there are.
people that just
Yeah.
like.
And they're not wrong. They just understand it. And like, I think there's so many people when I'm talking to them, I don't know that they understand that I can hear them. And it just feels
The
Yeah.
gray area for me is on a flight because I have the AirPods on, and a lot of other people do, but I still like take an ear cup off to talk to the flight attendant.
Yeah.
But also, like, flight attendants see this all the time. They must know that we
Yeah.
can hear them through the headphones. So maybe I don't have to do that. I don't know.
I don't know. Note: this feature is not coming to AirPods Max. It's only coming to AirPods Pro
Oh.
2.
Well-
Not even AirPods Pro, just AirPods Pro 2.
Okay, so it's truly for the wear them everywhere people.
Yeah.
I'm actually not a huge fan of this feature. Like the more I thought about it, because the Sonys have a very similar thing, the over-ear WH-1000X M3s
Slash
I think?
through
Slash
through
fours,
fives,
whatever it is.
through fives. Yeah.
where if you start talking, it'll like pause the music or enter transparency mode or something, which sounds great in theory.
I hate it.
Yeah, but if you're home
It
and you just
works
happen to be
badly.
singing, it just like
Oh,
cuts out.
really?
Yeah, I always turn that feature off when I use
Same.
those
It wants you to
headphones.
know that you're singing
Yeah,
and that it
it's
doesn't
like, I want
sound
you to
great.
listen
So
to
listen
yourself.
to your.
I think the
Exactly.
M4s added the automatic feature. On the M3s, you would hold the ear cup and it would turn on transparency.
But I have
mode.
to always download the app, turn that feature off, and then use the headphones.
You don't
as
like the
normally.
Sony app?
Next topic.
It's a bad app.
I feel like by the time we get to the point where we're all comfortable wearing earphones to talk to people all the time, people will start having things on your face, and then we're gonna get into the weird stage of do I take my
Are you
goggles
saying
off? to
Dyson's
talk
ahead
to
of their
some-
time? Quick
Yeah.
things. tvOS now supports FaceTime, so you can put your screen up.
Who is going to do
And
this?
well, this is the thing. This is a third theme. Is like Apple looks at what people are mostly doing with their phones, and they're going, "Oh, that's a lot of people doing that. We can make that better." There's a lot of people who are on FaceTime who want to put it on the TV. And I've witnessed this with families. They're like, "Oh, there's 9 people in the room. We all want to see grandma," and they put it on the TV.
Yeah.
But then the camera's here, so now they have like a dock. They put it up next to the TV, so everyone can
dock
see
out in
everyone.
front of your TV, and nobody has a dock for their TV.
It's a small niche thing that some families do that it'll be better for them.
Also, how am I gonna like text when my family's boring? Like
That's fair,
it's not
yeah.
it's at the TV now. I can't.
Yeah, but they
That's true.
already narc you out because if you're on FaceTime and you like multitask while you're on a
says it,
FaceTime,
like,
no,
this
it
person-
blocks your it makes your camera black.
No, not with the newest FaceTime.
Wait, really?
Yeah, the newest. I think iOS 16. It continues your camera feed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So you can multitask and it doesn't.
in the past, it
smoke
was
you
like,
out,
yeah, it'd be like this person's not
like
paying
this person's
attention to you.
piecing out, bro. It's not listening at all.
But yeah, I just feel like if you need to buy an additional hardware dock for this one niche circumstance that you don't use that
Yeah,
often,
I don't know if you need a dock. I just know that.
Well,
can-
you need something
there's a-
to hold your phone.
rest-
exactly. Yeah.
I was gonna say rest it on the TV, but a lot of people mount TVs. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
It's a thing.
yeah. Is that the only thing for
Wait.
tvOS?
Well, and then there's the like TV
Oh, you-
share play in hotels, right? Or
That
like
that's
sharing
that's
in-
Is that TV?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's tvOS or
Okay.
AirPlay or both.
AirPlay, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know when they'll add that. It'll take a while. One thing that they're adding is you can use your own photos for your Apple TV wallpaper now, and it's basically Chromecast from literally like
Yeah, so
15
Chromecast
years
has been
ago.
doing.
The original Chromecast that just would use your Google Photos albums and kind of rotate through. You can now do that.
So Apple's looking at what their own users are doing, and they're looking at what everyone else's users are doing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we could do that too.
Yeah. Okay, WatchOS 10.
Yeah.
10. They had a sick as crap. Can I say crap?
You can say
Yeah.
duck.
Yeah, they had a sick as duck animation for WatchOS 10.
That was
by
that
the way.
one, right?
The
Yeah.
intro video.
I think
was
David
so
and I
cool.
looked at each other and were like, That was pretty
dope.
sick. I feel like they ditched a lot of just the drone shots for this, and they did all these
Oh.
animations in between everything.
Mhm.
They were really good. I do miss the drone stuff, but the animation for this was
It was pretty
it
epic.
was really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like the logo for WatchOS 10. I think it's kind of boring.
I
But
think all of their logos are boring.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, wait, I just remembered something. Oh, sorry, that also is WatchOS 10, but we'll talk about that in a second. I thought I thought some of these were pretty cool, but I'm the only one who doesn't use an Apple Watch, and
All
everyone
right.
else
I
around
don't-
me says this looks
I
nuts.
don't
pretty
use
good.
an app. I don't
Oh,
use
yeah,
an
I
Apple
guess you
Watch
don't,
either.
yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us
But-
what I'm going to enjoy.
Is the Smart Stack widgets not like a pretty cool idea? I thought that seemed really neat to just like be able to be like, okay, I have a bunch of widgets that's basically taking account for what I'm doing in a day, and then when I scroll up, like it's going to show me the widget that's most likely to be the next thing that I have to do.
Yeah.
It didn't have to be a whole new OS version, but yeah, it's a cool feature.
Well,
I
they were
know, I'll
always
take it.
gonna.
I'll
They were
take it.
always gonna push a new OS version.
Yeah,
That's
of course.
WCC.
I mean, it's definitely not the big redesign that we thought that was rumored to happen.
Yeah.
There's some cool things like they make things. There's more stuff that happens in the corners of different apps, and the health. I did like the full screen health app.
I don't know.
Um,
That's mixed because so now you used to be able to see your steps, your move time, and your stand time
Mhm.
all in like one screen, and now they're full screen. And you have
Is that
to,
still not there? And now just when you go into each individual one, it's like a more detailed version.
It might
that's
be behind a
bigger?
click.
I think you have to
Go to
look
each
at
one
them on each
separately.
individual page,
I
and
do
it
think
does
they
give
scrolled, yeah.
it does give you more information about that metric, but you have to like scroll to a new page every time.
I mean, I
to-
guess ultimately the rings are that information first,
Yeah.
and you see them all together, and then you go into more individualized.
Definitely.
ones. Okay.
that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
There's also Snoopy face. You guys aren't pumped about that?
I actually thought that was cool.
It
I-
looks nice.
It's a watch face that has Snoopy and the bird.
That,
They sit on your clock and they play
Yeah.
things and they do and like anyway
Right.
when it when it rain like it adapts to the weather. So when it's raining,
That's
like
true.
he has a little umbrella.
That is true.
I
Is
don't
this the new watch face or is this a new OS version? Like, what are we doing? This is an entire new operating system?
Yeah.
I guess. Okay.
For Snoopy, baby.
there's
Yeah.
a couple cool activity changes.
Yeah.
One that I really, really like. There's a bunch of cycling stuff, but I don't understand anything about cycling. So if you like cycling, it was probably
And
pretty
they're like
cool.
your max power level.
Well, I think
was
you
like,
can
what?
connect it to a stationary bike and actually get like cadence and stuff out
Yeah.
of it, which
Or
is
connect it
pretty
to a
cool.
monitor on a bike where if you're actually cycling, it'll show the information that that monitor is knowing on your Apple Watch.
I think it also goes vice versa, where it's gauging how like your potential power output is based on your watch and the metrics from your heart rate and everything, and then it displays it on a phone that's mounted on your bike.
Yeah,
I
so
wrong on
there
that?
a lot of people bike with like a separate meter that shows them
Yeah.
things like power and cadence.
Okay.
And that stuff will pair to your watch and show it in line with your heart rate and everything else,
Oh,
which is pretty cool.
I was just completely confused about that. But yeah, cool. I liked the hiking updates.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
mostly one specific one that was essentially it will auto generate a waypoint in the hiking app that shows the last place that you had reception or the last place that you also just had an somewhat of reception that you can send SOS signals.
Mhm.
So basically when you're hiking, if you're losing reception and know you need to call somebody or are in a dangerous position where you need to send an SOS, you can know the last place where that is available.
And it'll track you back to it.
I
too.
think that's
amazing.
stupidly cool.
I think
and like
that's so
a
handy.
great safety feature.
So
Smart.
handy.
The other thing I just remembered though, wasn't there something with golf swings where like it can tell the angle of your wrist
Call me a
potentially-
skeptic. Call me
Call
a
you a skeptic.
skeptic.
So I think we need to test this because my
Sure.
golf swing, I have enough power to drive the ball, but I shank. Is that going away
You
from
probably
me?
are slicing the ball
slicing is
where
away
it starts
from me?
off straight and turns to the right.
For me as a righty?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do that. So let's see if it can fix that.
So they showed a demo where like you swing and then because it's on your wrist, it shows it knows your angle of impact at the ball. I mean, I guess they're pretty precise sensors. Man, golf swings are complicated and that I am very skeptical about. So we'll see.
I would like to test it because I think I have enough power to where it would be noticeably different. Because when I do actually hit the ball correctly, I feel like I have it's a decent hit.
Mhm.
But 99% of the time, I'm just hitting the right net at Top Golf,
Yeah.
just like swaying it into
Yeah.
there. So
They showed like at impact your hands were open and that's like on its face is really cool, but like people have weak or strong grips, so they won't be open at impact, even though the club face is open. So do they line up their hand with the club face or not? You don't know. You just have it on the wrist. You don't know a lot of things about the golf swing. So we'll see.
I can't wait
So
to see
this is
someone.
what people feel like when I start talking about basketball.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know much. That's why I can't
Will
wait
this
to see
help my
people at
mini
the-
golf game? That's my
Uh,
question.
I don't- open
honestly,
your hands a
yes.
little.
This is better for mini golf because it can tell easily, like when you're putting and you just do the simple backswing and forward swing, like, oh, okay, I know if I went open or closed because it's a very obvious movement. But the golf swing, all kinds of other movements happen.
I'm just imagining the driving range of people like, fix my swing, just screaming at
It can
their
only
watch.
tell you what's wrong with your swing. It can't fix you. It can just tell you what you did wrong.
No one can fix
Not how
you.
to fix it. Just
Yeah.
Just go to therapy, people.
Men will literally analyze their golf swing before going to therapy. Okay.
On that note,
On
we'll
that note-
probably take a quick break.
Wait. There's more.
There's more what?
There's the hiking stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
we
we
yeah,
said that.
the topographic map.
There's a
Oh.
topographic map.
Cool.
Seems cool.
All right.
All right, now we'll go to break.
Now we'll go to
20
break.
years. Yeah.
We got a lot of headsets to talk about because Apple didn't
Oh.
make a new first gen product.
There's one more thing.
What's the one more thing?
Okay. There is actually one more thing. There is now a mindfulness app where you can like log your mood. You can describe how you're feeling, which I think like journaling your mood is probably a good.
This feels more like
thing.
the journaling app than the journaling app.
It does. But the thing that was kind of weird to me is that you can also they can pull up a test where you can like take this test, and depending on what you say, it'll like suggest you go talk to someone. And I think that's good in general. It's very interesting to see how into the health stuff Apple is willing to push, right? Because Amazon, recently bought a medical company, and I could foresee Apple also becoming like, we have more health data on you than like almost any other company. So
Okay, spoiler alert. This is sort of a preview into a really interesting conversation we're going to have on the podcast soon with a doctor, because there is a ton of Apple Watch versus health questions, and then the mindfulness, and then how do you diagnose versus use what the watch tells you. So that's going to be a whole episode. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you haven't already to see that.
Okay.
But I think the funny, ironic part to end on is there is a data point which tells you, hey, you've been really close to a screen a lot lately.
Yeah.
Maybe back off for a little bit and be further from a screen. And then we immediately got into the next product, which is strapping a screen to your face.
Yeah.
So on that note, we'll take a break and we'll come back and we'll talk about Vision Pro. All right, welcome back. We got one more thing to talk about, just like Apple had one more thing to talk about. And it was the first generation of a new product category. A watch. No, just kidding. It's a headset. It's an AR VR headset, and this again completes the theme of Apple not wanting to use words that other companies use. At no point did they want to say this is an AR VR headset.
No, they said
they
XR.
didn't say virtual reality very often. They actually called it spatial computing
Yes.
before they said AR VR. But the point is, it's a headset that you put on your face that costs $3,500. Will come out early next year. And, they gave a bunch of demos of it. I got to try it. It has a bunch of really interesting tech. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the like XR extended reality spatial computing idea front, I was thinking about this all night last night. I was like writing about my feelings about this headset last night just to get my feelings out about it. I actually think
In the
that
journal app.
no, it's not out yet.
Journaling.
I actually think that the extended reality, like spatial computing phrasing, is really good for this headset because it is not really supposed to be a VR headset. Like it is. So for those listening and also watching, there's like there's a digital crown on it that you can turn. And as you turn it, it takes you from the real world into a more digital world. And you can just on the fly, whenever you feel like it, put yourself more in a digital world or more in a real world. And I think that is a really good idea because virtual reality headsets, you only are able to be in VR. And for so many people, that means that the only use case for using a VR headset is basically like playing games or that kind of stuff, right?
Whatever's in a virtual world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that means that you're going to only be in that virtual world and you have no other options. And most people don't want to be immersed in this virtual world for a long period of time because, one, just evolutionarily, people don't like not being able to see or feel what's around them. Like there are predators that could attack you, right? And so I think that Apple wants this to feel just like an extension of what you're already doing, which is what AR was originally sort of intended for. And the reason I think that Google Glass was like one of the best inventions ever, but it just got completely destroyed because of privacy concerns. But I think their point with this is that they want you to mostly just like be in real life, but then be able to like use those experiences when you want to.
Interesting.
Yeah. Do you want to talk more about like what the headset is?
Yeah,
what
I'll
it
give
does?
I'll give you the breakdown basically of controls versus other headsets. So if you've ever seen an AR VR headset, typically a VR headset is this plastic shell you strap to your face and then you get a set of controllers, or you can do stuff with your hands. This is a metal and glass headset that you strap to your face. There are no controllers being made for it. It is controlled entirely by your hands, your eyes, and your voice.
The eyes is the craziest
This
part.
to me is like the big difference really with like an Apple product. Obviously there's a lot more to talk about, but really it feels like the innovation here was UI again. Like it reminds me a lot of the first iPhone where you have this like pinch to zoom moment on stage and everyone goes, whoa, you can just pinch the screen and make it bigger. And it seems so obvious now. But the same thing happens in that headset where instead of like the normal experience, which is I have the controller, I point out in space and I hold a trigger and I like drag something. In this one, I just look at what I want to touch and then I just touch my fingertips together and it clicks it. And your fingertips can be anywhere. They can be in your lap. They can be off to the side.
Almost anywhere.
Almost anywhere. As long as you're in the front
Behind your
somewhere.
head.
But honestly, so I did my demo. Like I did it by accident. Like on the couch next to me, my fingers connected and I clicked something by accident.
I should say you have to try to be out of range.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do it like this.
Yeah, I heard people talking about how they were like testing it and like
Yeah.
it does get
I
to
mean,
a
so-
point. Or if like I guess something is like in the way of your hands.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are cameras, 2 on the front, 2 on the side, 2 facing down. So generally think about that. That's where it's sensing things.
It's a 180-degree field of view, basically.
Yeah. It's got a super high resolution display for each eye, well over 4K. It's the sharpest VR headset I've ever seen. It has a lot of cameras, and the 2 on the front are for stereoscopic 3D, and it does full color pass through. It's the best pass through in any headset I've ever seen.
Definitely.
And then the eye tracking is borderline telepathic. So what happens is with the headset, you start with a calibration thing. So it shows some dots on the screen, like a dot appears and it shrinks down and you look at it, and then another dot appears and you look at it. And so it's looking at your irises. There's a bunch of sensors on the inside to see what your eyes are looking at. And then once it's done with that, it opens up, you get to the home screen and the UI is there. You hit the digital crown, the apps show up, and you just look at the icon and it highlights like me. And then others are still, and you look at another icon and it's like, oh, me? And it's this really interesting like telepathic dance where like I look all over the screen and as soon as my eye stops, it highlights exactly what I'm looking at. There's a home screen bar at the bottom. There's a little icon to like drag to make windows bigger. God, there's so much to talk about.
I know.
I look at a window, I select it and I push it back in space, and with incredible precision and responsiveness, it moves it around the room exactly where I want in any UI direction. There are shadows cast under the windows in the room. So I'm moving a window back and I see it cast a shadow. I have Safari going. I'm scrolling up and down. You know, with like the physics of like an iPhone scrolling, you can like scroll it up and catch it and like toss it around. You can do all of that in the air in real time. Unbelievably responsive.
Yeah.
More so than any I've ever seen. I mean, I tried the Quest Pro, and the Quest Pro is as close as I've seen to that. There's a PSVR 2. Just this one it's the highest quality UI of any headset I've ever seen, with the pass-through and the eye control and the hands and everything. A lot of other interesting features. There's the iris scanning unlocking. It's called what iris? No, what is it called?
Optic ID.
Thank you.
Optic ID, yeah.
Optic ID, just because your eye is as unique as your fingerprint, so that's cool.
Borderline creepy.
Borderline creepy, but at least it's just like IR
Makes
cameras
the
and
most
it's
sense
fine.
for sure on like how to unlock something like that.
And then I think the most iconic piece of this whole thing is this headset appears to be transparent, but it is not. What you're seeing when you're looking at the headset and there are eyes looking back at you, it's actually just a sort of a it's an OLED screen flipped around showing what your eyes are computed to look like on the inside. But really, it only shows up when you're in some sort of a pass-through mode and you can see other things in the room.
Yeah.
As soon as you're not in a pass-through mode, if you're watching a movie or you can't see anything, it shuts it down. You don't see the eyes, and it's just like an animation. And this is one of those things that it's fascinating. I don't think we're going to see any other headset do this. I think it adds a lot of cost, it adds a lot of weight, and it adds no benefit to the person actually wearing the headset. It's mainly just so that you can wear it without looking like a meme.
The eye thing?
Yeah.
I think the eye thing makes you look like a meme.
Well, it does, but I think they were specifically thinking about how do we make this acceptable to wear out in public.
So don't do it.
Also, I do think they would argue that the part that is benefiting the person wearing it is in that situation, someone comes into your field of view and you're trying to communicate with them, is you don't have to take it off now.
Yeah.
Or that's what they want you. They don't want you to take it off. And like that taking it on and off is benefit. But I'm just, this is their argument, not mine. It's beneficial to the person wearing it because you're not taking it off. I think the weird thing about the eyes is like, I think it shows one of the coolest things that I think they did really well. And then everyone's only focusing on the eyes, which is kind of the weird part. It's really cool that you can have windows open and someone comes close enough to you where it assumes you want to like, they want to talk to you. Like you're not stuck in this VR world.
It has
like
a feature for this.
That part is really cool where it comes forward and it pushes them through the screen. And that's when it activates the eyes because then you're communicating with them. That is really cool.
It's only when you make eye contact with each other. So they can be like in here, but only when you like look at them, they sort of like fade into your virtual reality.
Yeah.
Well, they need to be able to, they fade in if they just get close enough.
I don't think so.
They
Well, you
fade
can't
in
make eye contact
slightly,
with someone if there's a window.
Okay, so
but you can because you can look over it in that direction. It's not eye
but
contact.
if they come
like if you're
behind
looking...
you, if they come from behind a screen, you can't make eye contact with them. They're
So
not
when
always going to make it into those spaces.
If they come from behind a screen, it goes like 10% more transparent than usual, and you can see that there is a face
Yeah.
there.
And
And
then
then if you
look
choose to
towards
look at the
them,
face, then
they
they sort of
fade
like
in.
Yeah,
fog
it's-
away.
it still like finds a way to fade someone in when it thinks there's someone in close enough to you rather than just being completely oblivious to the outside world.
Yeah.
Which is a feature I have not seen on other headsets yet.
It's an incredible feature.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Like the way that it does it is so amazing. Like just the fluency of them like slowly fading in and then you kind of look at them and they fade in a lot more. And then even if you're in full virtual mode, if you're looking at them, suddenly you've just got this person that's there as well. It's freaking amazing.
That
It's
sounds
so
kind
cool.
of creepy, but also is way less creepy than somebody just standing outside and
I
you don't
agree.
know they're there. So like, I
agree.
think that is an awesome feature. But then that feature, everyone's just thinking about the stupid eyes that come on the front of it, which is like, it's so cool and so memeable at the same time. Like the whole crowd was laughing when they kept showing eyes coming through.
It was
like,
really
this
interesting.
headset.
So just disclosure, David and I have tried the headset and we've gotten our demos of it, and there was like a 30-minute full demo of a bunch of different features. I want to hit on a couple other features and things we got to try. One is you can do FaceTimes in the headset. It's its own computer with an M2 chip and an R1 chip, which is doing all the real-time processing of the sensors. And you can jump on a FaceTime, and you don't have to have it paired to an iPhone or anything. It's connected to Wi-Fi. And you pick up the FaceTime, and there's like a window or two windows or however many people are on, and you can see everyone's FaceTimes and their video feeds. But what do they see? Oh, funny you ask. They will see a 3D reconstructed version of you that is sort of animated in real time to match the way you look. And you actually have to scan yourself in by turning the headset around and scanning yourself as a registration process.
Yeah.
And so then there's this like high-res cartoon version of you, and I actually got to chat with one of them, which I assume you did too.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Google Starline-ish, a little bit worse quality, I would say.
Yeah.
So that was interesting to see.
The demos made it look like, and you guys can confirm this, like the quality of your face in Starline was better, but the like cutout of Starline was really rough, and that looked like the actual image of it was better, just like lower quality.
Well,
So there's no background or anything.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just kind of like a floating.
But Starline had like that weird like squiggly cutout.
Yeah, because they tried to
of you
put
the
you
whole
on like
time,
a
which
fake
is-
background.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Starline was a million times more immersive because it's a 60-inch real screen, but this was more just like a little floating window in front of you.
Yeah.
And like a Wii Sports avatar.
Yeah, it is. It was sort of this weird, like, you know how Meta announced the the really high resolution because there's that meme of Zuck like standing in front of the Eiffel Tower like looking like worse than a Wii graphic.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no, this is what it's actually going to look like in the future. And they have like this way higher resolution.
You're gonna be
version
able to
of
scan
him.
yourself in. Yeah.
It basically is like that. And it's this weird, like, it's digital because it's got this weird texture to
That's
it.
that's what I was trying to explain. Like it looks from the things, and like you looking at it was probably almost looks like. Do you know when they like blend a bunch of faces together to show you like what the average person would look like, or like if we were all together? It's got that
Smooths your
vibe.
features.
It's like an
Yeah.
uncanny valley thing. And I don't know if people are going to respond well to this. They might get used to it. But it's just strange. Like previously, Apple, in FaceTime allowed you to be a memoji. And
Yeah.
I think that's so far away from Uncanny Valley that people were just like used to that.
It's just a funny thing.
But this feels like what a sci-fi representation of like people are in holograms.
This one I feel like is why you have to look forward into the future, because this is the first gen version of it.
Yeah.
But let's say theoretically in the future this gets much better, much smaller, and much higher quality.
Yeah.
Then maybe it's acceptable to like jump on a FaceTime with a high res animated version of you, and there's hand tracking and face tracking and stuff.
Yeah.
I guess.
It's got good mapping of your face though, because it's got those downwards facing cameras that are seeing your facial expressions, so it's not just guessing what your facial expressions are. The one thing that was pulling me out of it was like the movements around your eye, right? Like it knows the direction you're looking because it has the iris scanners and stuff.
There's a lot more happening.
There's a lot more happening that you're not even really noticing actively, like in your cheekbones and your eyebrows and stuff, that those were pretty static. And that's why it felt
Well,
a
you
little
also have
weird.
a thing pressing up against
Yeah.
your face at that point, so those
Yeah.
things can't really move
Exactly.
in that situation.
Exactly. So yeah, that was strange.
This feels like a kind of weird, like when you're gonna FaceTime your friends or your family and you're the only person with this, are they gonna be like, I don't know how I feel about this?
Probably.
This is
a
good.
bunch
This
of people
feels
in
weird.
2D, and
It's
you're
'cause-
just like,
Well, and it just
I
feels
s-
really impersonal. like,
Right, I
that
said
it's
this in the
fake.
video. Like when
Yeah.
I'm FaceTiming friends and family, I'm trying to see my friends and family, like actually see them.
right.
And at this particular moment, this 2023 version of it, it does not feel like I'm actually seeing the person.
Mhm.
Maybe in the future, it's so high res and accurate, and it's a recent scan. Because this is the thing, I could scan myself a month ago, and I'm using that old scan. It's like that's not what I look like right now.
Mhm.
But maybe it eventually gets really good, and it feels like I'm talking to a person. But right now, it feels worse than a FaceTime.
This is like a better version of an audio call, but worse than a video call.
I was gonna say this looks like a better version of the like meta like AR VR business stuff. This feels like a business thing, not a personal
Yeah.
thing. Like I wouldn't care if I'm just doing
Totally.
a meeting with it's like you guys, like and we're doing like, oh, let's go over and edit or doing something in 3D. Like
Yeah.
I don't care quite as much as like
Yeah.
what we feel like we're doing in the moment, but FaceTime feels way more personal and this feels a little
Mhm.
weird for that.
This to me feels like a perfect feature that will make sense in 10 years. Like the digital crown right now, when you rotate it, it'll go from VR to AR, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
The goal is to always have it rotated so that you're just in AR. Is that not the case?
Well,
like,
they-
in 10 years, they want you to always be in AR.
Not
Transparency
necessarily.
mode?
Yeah.
They already want you to mostly be in AR,
but you can switch it to
but you can
VR.
switch it to VR because sometimes being
That's
in
only because that's what we're capable of right now. I don't think like if this was just an AR machine, that would be weird. Like they have to add the VR things. No one's gonna wear this for the functionality of what's currently available.
It
with
seems like
AR.
there's a lot of potential use case in each.
Yeah.
Like with AR,
Yeah.
with having like your computer monitors up, but being able to see your coworkers around you, just like that feels like a kind of useful AR thing. But if I'm watching a movie, I don't want to see anything else.
Yeah.
So like VR, if I want to watch a sports game or a movie or something, I want full VR.
But I feel like they're only adding those features because they have to, because the headset is so big.
Adding the VR features.
Like if they could have made the glasses yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever they announced this, they would have just done that, and then we
But
wouldn't have
then-
any
Oh,
VR
we're so
features.
far away
I
from
think that removes the
Yeah.
ability to do most of the best stuff in VR, which
Yeah.
is like we have cool games, we have cool experiences. If I want to like really immerse myself in this virtual world, that was a lot of the interesting stuff too. Is like they showed a bunch of content that was shot for it, and it was really, really immersive and good.
It was.
And I think if you don't have the ability to shut
Oh.
out the outside environment, you don't fully appreciate that.
I want to specifically like first of all, yeah, like the immersive stuff. Watching movies was really interesting. I've used so many VR headsets where like you basically have a 200-inch display, and it actually felt like I was in a movie theater. Like they put it far enough back, and there's like this kind of like depth that you get even in full VR that I've never had from a different headset before, but specifically the like XR mixed reality feature that kind of blew me away the most was how good it is at understanding spatial reasoning. So first of all, when we were doing the demo, you're sitting in a couch and the display pops up in front of you and you can pin windows and stuff. When I say pin windows, like with other AR stuff that sort of understands your space, the windows will kind of glitch around. They'll jiggle because they're trying to understand like, where are you again? Like, but no, it's like you can walk around the room and if this is here, it is there. It is not moving at all.
If you put a window on the ceiling,
it'll
and then like spin around and walk around the room and look back up there, it's exactly where you put it.
Well, that was one of my questions because Andrew and I didn't get to try it. So like when you walk in for this demo, is there like furniture in the room? Or is it just like a blank
there's
space?
furniture.
They did a decent job. It was like a normal looking room.
There's some photos. If you look at the Good Morning America interview, there's stuff maybe not as cluttered as an average.
Yeah, there's a couch, there's a
place.
table in front of you. I actually think the more stuff you have, the more tracking points it has to latch onto, which is probably fine. But yeah, it was a pretty normal room was the goal.
I think the demo that really showed that off to me the most and that blew me away the most is, first of all, every single VR headset that you will ever use or AR headset has a T-Rex dinosaur demo for some reason to make it just so you get that like, oh, I'm scared of this large thing. But there was that exact dinosaur demo. I think they showed it in the keynote. But basically this gate portal thing opens up in the wall and it feels like the wall is opening up because the spatial pinning is so good. But the thing that was interesting about this demo is they're like, so get up, walk over to the wall. You know, they actually have you walk around. And the cool thing is like the refresh rate or whatever and the cameras are so good that I didn't feel like I needed to like be careful about where I was walking. I felt like I could just walk freely through a space.
This is the transparency was good enough. Like I walked right around the table.
If I can cut you off really quick, I don't think people understand how important that is. Like we've tried every single pass through you can probably think of and they're not great. So like this was one thing specifically looking at that I'm glad you guys got to experience was like pass through is not very easy because you have to have different cameras and the 3D space is like not. Remember that one? I forget what that headset was, but when you went into pass through mode, things further away and things closer to you would start wobbling off axis of each other because like those cameras aren't like computing them together well, and that just immediately is like I'm in this weird space and I do not feel comfortable moving.
Totally.
So that's like. That's really, really impressive.
Here's
and
a
hard
really
to tell
niche,
how impressive it is.
Here's a really niche way of understanding that only us will understand. You know, we've tried to play ping pong in other headsets. You could do it in this one.
Yeah.
Like
no, you could legit.
You could actually play ping pong with the headset on.
Through.
No way.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
No, it's so good. It's so good. Like I felt no. Oh God, I'm gonna trip. Oh God, maybe I don't see this thing. Oh God, maybe the refresh rate's not high enough.
Especially because depth is usually a problem. Like I feel like if I tossed something up in front of me, I would maybe be almost able to catch it, but it would like hit me in the wrist or something.
Yeah.
I'm throwing a frisbee at you when we get
I
this.
think we can do it.
Yeah.
I'm hucking it.
I think we could do.
Well,
I'm throwing. We're playing guts.
Yeah.
I don't know
We're
about
playing
that,
guts.
but
We're
I
playing
do
guts.
think if I wanted to play ping pong virtually with someone in AR and I could stand in front of a table
You could have
and
a
play
score up.
like a real like fun game of
pin score.
multiplayer ping pong. Like the apps are gonna be fun.
But yeah, so the spatial reasoning thing with this T-Rex demo specifically that was like, oh my God, was they get you to stand up from the couch, you walk over like to the wall with the gate open and everything, and the T-Rex is like coming out and he like comes out of the wall. And it doesn't matter. Like usually with these demos, you have to stand straight in front of the wall. And if you kind of like get off axis a little bit, it kind of messes up, kind of like the Starline thing. But with this, you can like go over to the other side of the room and kind of look at the wall from over there. And the space is exactly, the T-Rex is exactly rendered perfectly quality and it knows where you are. So it like comes out of the wall a little bit and it kind of gets up to your face and it's snarling. And because this headset also has spatial audio, so not only is there like the spatial rendering of your vision, but there's also the spatial noise. And it makes it so immersive because you're like here and the T-Rex is staring directly at you. You feel it right in your ear. If you turn like to your right, you feel it like snarling in your ear. It's crazy. It's really hard to explain because I know that a lot of people have tried these kind of demos and it's like the first time I ever tried VR was trying a Vive in a Microsoft store. And I played this game where you're underwater and there's like a whale that goes over you. I think it's called like The Blue. and I felt my heart start racing because I felt the scale of the whale. It was kind of the same thing with this.
Yeah. There was also some footage that was like, because I think with the T-Rex, I kind of could not really fully